I made a video a couple of days ago that is called Let's Talk About Money. I was trying to explain how if there's no scarcity, if there's abundance, money becomes irrelevant. So only when there's scarcity, then money is kind of relevant. And I was trying to explain a couple of things regarding this and trying to make people imagine if there was, for example, a city. Could this small city, could we imagine a small city be self-sustainable and not need money if the whole production would be optimized regarding, for example, food and so on and so on. And I was making an example that parts of the city could share a vertical farm. So I got some comments regarding this, and I want to try to answer some of those comments the best way I can. And I want to say that I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to figure out stuff exactly like you probably out there. So one of the comments were, who would own the vertical farm? Well, this thing of ownership is something that has been, preached to us since we are children. And but you can think of the vertical farm in a city that would share the vertical farm. Everyone in the city would own it, or nobody would own it. You can think of it as just a resource that would be used to feed people, and that's it. The same way as a car would be used to transport a person from A to B. There is no necessity for anybody to actually own the car or the transportation, as long as you get the result out of it. This ownership is something that we have been taught, and it's something that is very important in our current economy, because our economy thrives on people having things. The more we can produce copies of things, the more the economy is thriving. The more items we produce, the more items get broken, and so on. So our current economy is actually not especially interested in terms of GDP, in terms of growth, that we share things. But if we were looking at a resource-based economy as an example, so this is an economy where we basically share resources, and a vertical farm would be a resource. And one of the other questions I was getting was, it was actually the same subscriber. I'm not sure if she is a subscriber, but she made a comment, and she wrote something that, who would own the houses? I mean, how would the houses be? Wait, one second. How would it be abundance for other resources such as houses? Again, it's just a resource. Like building a house, if you build it in a proper way, it's not something that is easily destroyed. You don't need to maintain it that much. Of course, if you build a shitty house, but first when the house is built, this resource is just you live in the house. Of course, when you start calculating in the city, as the city expands, you will understand that, okay, maybe we need more houses. Now we need more vertical farms, and so on and so on. But this was more like a thought experiment to make you think in those directions. So nobody will own the house. Of course, nobody will come inside and take your belongings or somebody of your personal stuff that has value to you on an emotional level. But if you were to live in a society that was more a shared society, shared economy, then look at it from a different perspective. Like you don't actually own anything. You share it. And of course, you would not share the house with everyone. You would share the house with yourself and maybe some loved ones or some family, and that's it. And this would be treated as a resource as anything else, as an apple, as a car, as so on and so on. You don't need everyone to have a car, but you need everyone to have a house. But some of the houses would be shared as a family, and that's it. I mean, I don't know how to even explain that. Maybe because I don't understand completely the question, but it's because our thinking is very in a certain way that we need to own something, but it's more like a sharing economy. We need to think about this. Like I made a video about a resource-based economy. We're going to try to watch it, and yeah, that's it. And the last question was about land and human resources. So I'm not sure exactly what that means exactly, but regarding land, there is enough land to create. If we look at the whole globe, there's enough space for us all. There's a lot of space. Sometimes we have the illusion that there's not so much space because we are bulked inside the cities, and we think there's not enough land. There's enough land. There's enough resources. How we use the resources, this is much more important. So, for example, the way we use resources today, this can support around 1 billion people. If you produce a phone that breaks down very fast and you need to buy a new phone because to support the economy or to support that company, then this is not an efficient way of using resources. But if you start sharing costs, start sharing the transportation vehicles, you start sharing, you create much more sharing facilities, then you understand that you don't need so many resources. And if we didn't have capitalism that is thriving on constant repair and constant things breaking down so we can throw them away and producing new stuff that we can sell to people, then we have actually a lot of resources. And also how we produce is very important. For example, the way we produce today is mainly driven by cost efficiency. So the success of a product is determined if you can sell the product, if how much money you get back from producing this product, and how good you are in marketing, and so on and so on. So the product's success is determined much more on how much you can sell than on the quality of the product. And what I mean with that is, like, I don't mean only the quality of the product that is actually functioning, but also how durable it is, how long it can withstand. You take a mobile phone, if you put it on the floor, like, will it break down? Can you easily replace the different things inside the mobile phone so you don't need some expensive repair? Can you take and can we use materials that are easy to deassemble, to recycle? So if we were to create a phone that is efficient in terms of all the parameters, parameters of sustainability, or parameters of durability, the parameter of if we embedded a lot of parameters regarding our character, if we were to have criteria to the phone, if the quality of the phone was determined from how sustainable the phone was and how useful and how long it could satisfy our needs, then you would see a very different type of production. Because, like I said before, I know I'm repeating myself, but this is very important to understand. The cost efficiency is primarily the goal when you're producing something, because you want to lower the costs and you want to earn as much money as possible on the worst product as possible in some extent. You don't want the most expensive hardware and the most expensive materials in the phone. And you must understand what is expensive, what is not, has nothing to do with, or has very little to do with how much it is on the planet. Sometimes producing a phone in a certain way wouldn't be beneficial for the company. Let's say this, like, as an example. For example, you could, in theory, produce a phone in a way where the processing power would be somewhere else, and you would have distributed processing. So I don't know if that is even possible, but imagine if you were thinking in terms of that you want the phone to work as long as possible, and like, maybe this is a bad example, but okay, let me try to make a more simple example. The screen. Imagine producing a screen that is very strong. It cannot break. Maybe that screen will be 3, 4, 5 times more expensive in terms of cost in terms of money. In terms of resources, you only produce one screen, and then screen can last very long. So you would use less materials. And because there will be a need for this type of screen, because now we are thinking about durability, then this screen we could make this production of this type of screen very efficient, and we could streamline that a lot. So now producing a normal screen and a super screen, let's call it this, or like a very durable screen, could now have almost the same cost in terms of resources. Like maybe it will take some time to invent such a screen. Maybe it will be difficult to produce the first couple of thousand phones, but then when you produce 1 million phones, there will be almost no difference between this type of screen, that type of screen. But that kind of screen would be much more beneficial in terms of sustainability, because you will not need to repair the phone so often. I don't know if you get me. The same way you could say you could make the hardware very strong. You could make and one of the tactics that the company are using is that they use materials that break down. They even embed weaknesses inside the phone to make it slower, to make the battery life go down quicker, to create a lot of problems for you, so you feel that you need to buy a new phone. So if you mean, so your question was something about resources and resources, if there's enough resources for people, well, there is. It depends on how we use them. So like I said, if we were to go down to 1 billion people, this is around the amount of people we can support currently on the planet with the current techniques we use for production, the current way we organize our society with the current values, and so on and so on. If you were to create another type of society where it was a sharing society, and where we were thinking about the product we were producing in not in the terms of cost efficiency only, but also in the whole way, like how can we produce something that can easily be recycled, reused, and so on and so on. So the quality of this product would be determined not only how cheap it is to produce, but how sustainable it is. This is basically what I was trying to say in like sorry if I was rambling and repeating myself a couple of times, but this is like, it's very important to understand. I hope you got most of your answer, and yeah, thank you for making a comment. I will answer more questions if you have any. So that's it. Enjoy. Bye bye.